From The National, this is Trending Middle East. I'm Yasmin Al-Taji. It's Friday, August 22nd. Here are today's headlines. Israel has begun its operation to take over Gaza City ahead of a full ground offensive. It's the first step after the military called up tens of thousands of reservists. On Thursday, the first day of the operation, several people were reported killed. Israel is pressing ahead with its plan to seize Gaza's biggest urban center. That's despite international criticism of an operation likely to force the displacement of many more Palestinians. But some say this operation could be a pressure tactic. The National's Nada AlTaher reports.
This is seen as a way for Israel to pressure Western countries recognizing or even aiming to recognize Palestine. But regardless of whether the Gaza City plan has started with the intention to just frighten Hamas or not, former Israeli security, military, and political experts have all told me that this move will inevitably bring devastating consequences to Palestinians living in Gaza.
Israel's advancement towards Gaza City and the intensification of attacks and killings comes while a U.S. brokered deal mediated by Egypt and Qatar is pending Israeli approval. Hamas greenlit the deal this week. The group had made concessions on the initial version of the agreement. Those include relinquishing a demand for written U.S. guarantees that the deal would lead to a permanent ceasefire.
The world is also waiting for Israel to approve a ceasefire deal that Hamas has already signed off on, a version of the agreement that is very close to an original one that Israel had already approved of as well. Benjamin Netanyahu is not interested in a deal, the former head of the National Security Council, Iran Etzion, has told me. Netanyahu, he said, is, quote, fully committed to an overarching strategy to annihilate the two-state solution, he said. First in Gaza, then in the West Bank.
Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara on Wednesday approved a temporary electoral law before the first parliamentary election scheduled since the ouster of the former regime. But some say the elections could be delayed. On Thursday, sources told The National that the parliamentary election had been postponed indefinitely due to external pressure and the new authorities' lack of control over the entire country. Syria was expected to hold the vote between September 15th and 20th, according to the election committee, but no exact date had been provided. The decree issued by al-Shara on Thursday details the electoral process, the requirements for membership in parliament, and what it takes to be part of an electoral committee. It also set the number of parliament members at 210, with 2/3 chosen by electoral bodies and the remaining third by the president. That's an increase from the previous number of 150 members. The head of Syria's elections committee, Mohammed al-Ahmed, said the constituencies in the country had been divided into 62 districts. Proposals for membership of the electoral bodies, he said, were set to begin on Thursday. The Syrian government has scaled back roadblocks near Sweida in preparation for the reopening of a route from the area to Damascus. That's according to sources who spoke to The National on Thursday. The move came as the U.S. piled pressure on the authorities who ousted Bashar al-Assad last year to improve the conditions of the Druze and in the shadow of Israeli threats. The National's Khaled Yacoub Oweis reports.
Syrian authorities made a rare admission on Tuesday of the existence of what they call a humanitarian aid gap in Sweida. In a statement issued on Tuesday, the Syrian Foreign Ministry said that Syrian officials have met with the United Nations officials to discuss the humanitarian needs of Sweida.
Hundreds of Druze civilians were killed last month when regular forces and militias loyal to President Ahmed al-Shara tried to take control of the provincial capital, Sweida City, by force, but they were repelled by the Israeli Air Force. Thousands of security forces and auxiliaries have been surrounding Sweida Governorate since the government takeover of Sweida City was repelled in the middle of June.
The area came under a government attack last month, aimed at subduing a defiant Druze cleric, Sheikh Hikmet al-Hajri, who had demanded a civil state and accused the government of militancy.
This has resulted in shortages of basic goods and medicine and left hundreds of thousands of Druze trapped in a mostly barren landscape with no access to the rest of the country. The authorities have rejected the establishment of a humanitarian corridor to Sweida from outside the country. Israel had previously called for a passage to deliver aid directly to the city. That's all for this morning's headlines. You can get these stories and more and follow our live coverage at our site, thenationalnews.com. Yasmin Al-Taji, The National.